No, that was not. I don't feel like
Perfect.
that was on beat.
It's fine. But I just, it's like, I know that we're clapping roughly at the same time. So, like, from there I can sync it up. It'll be fine.
The first clap, I think, was the same. And then I think it was the third clap that was not lined up.
Okay, now I have to peel my eyes away and get my brain ready, because this is what I'm doing. It's this little addictive, you, like, pour, liquid of the same color into the same test tube, and you try to, like, mix them. Level 50.
I know.
Just started
I was going to
this
say
morning.
level
I'm
50.
addicted.
When did you start that?
This morning. I woke up at like 7 or 8 and I was laying in bed and I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw an ad for it and I was like, first of all, I never click ads on Instagram because usually they're just complete garbage. But also, the last time I had a phone game on my phone, like, one of those little just like click and do little things on your phone game.
Yeah.
I was in like high school. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to put one on here and see how it goes. And I did that, and this is how it goes.
I will sometimes download a game onto my phone, and I'll, like, be addicted to it for an hour or so, and then I'm like, this is not how I want to spend my time. And so I delete it. So usually games last 1, maybe 2 hours on my phone, and then they're gone because I waste so much time on them.
Yeah, that's pretty much me. And I usually get bored, too.
Do you remember the one, you were running on, like, a cliff type thing?
Never played Maze Runner.
Runner, that one.
Yeah. Like, at that time, I didn't have an iPhone, and I was like, ha, all you dumb iPhone people are stuck on this game. And then Candy Crush came out, and it was the same thing. And I was like, I don't have that problem. And now I'm like, I still don't really have any of those, like, traditional, like, like, the popular games. But I find occasionally these little, like, mind games, and I get hooked. But, yeah, I only keep them for, like, a day or two.
Yeah. I was really good at Maze Runner. Like, really good.
Very nice. Yeah, my mom still has Candy Crush and is still, like, getting up in levels on there. And I'm just like, how are you not bored of this yet?
Yeah, I've never played Candy Crush.
Yeah, literally, how have you been in the last 24 hours?
Just packing. I made us some breakfast muffins since we'll be driving, and did my laundry. Yeah, that's it. Just packing still.
Sweet.
Have to finish my laundry. It's in the dryer right now. Then get us a couple more snacks together and stuff tonight, and then go to bed early because we're leaving at like 5:30 or 6.
That's super early. No thanks.
We're doing 12-hour days driving. Actually, tomorrow's like 13 hours, and the next day will be 12. So.
That's insane.
Yeah.
We did that on the last day of our road trip, and that was only because I was sick. Like, I wanted to just be in my own bed. Otherwise, we do, like, 5 to 8 hour days because we're just, like, meanderers.
My dad was a truck driver, and so he, every day, hours a day, and then just with all of his health stuff, he can't get a physical card anymore to be able to drive, but I definitely have the truck driving genes in me, and I can drive for hours at a time, and I prefer it because it just gets you to your destination quicker, and yeah.
Oh no. No, you have to stop in all the small cute towns, and every time you see like a quaint little diner, like stop in and get an ice cream. That's what like makes a road trip.
Sure. Maybe if I had someone to like do that with, then I would be more inclined to do it. But most of the time when I'm going on road trips, I'm going to a place, and I have a certain amount of time, So I'm getting I'm getting to I'm getting to a place that I can see my friends and family, and I want to get there. Straight shot.
No. I just can't. Like, I just can't. Because we were even, like, last 2 years ago, I think. We went to California to visit a friend of mine. Literally, we stopped, like, every 2 hours down the coast. Like, for fun.
Okay, but coast is different. There. Have you ever driven through the Midwest?
Yes, I have. And I will say there's still some cool stuff. Like, you can still pull off
but
and see
not
some cool
as much.
Or
when I was doing road trips, most of the time I've gone from New York or Virginia to Utah. And so it's just going straight shot through the Midwest where there is basically nothing. And or we did stop when I was a teenager. And so I've seen the small amount of things that there are to see. So, yeah.
I don't know.
And this time,
it's a vibe.
This time, I really did want to be able to stop because we're like going through Kentucky and Tennessee. I've never been there, but with my dad's dialysis, we have to get there in 2 days so that he can do dialysis in Texas on Friday. And so, unfortunately, we really like are on a time crunch at this point. So
yeah. That makes sense. That we will pass for driving straight there. Any other excuse? No. Because literally, like, I don't even know how to explain it. There was this giant pink dinosaur.
I've seen it.
Okay, so like, but that's one of the things that I was like, I would stop there every time we passed it. Because why not? Just for like an updated picture. Or like to say hi to it again. And to
say hi to it. As if it's going to say hi back.
It will, with its smile. Okay? Yeah, no, I think and also I feel like we do just stop at like random diners or the best way to get to know like a really small town is to just go into the thrift store and start talking to the lady that works there. Guarantee she has some super unique stories and usually some super rare gems because nobody shops there. Everyone dumps their stuff there.
That's
and
true.
Then you go in there and you're like, this is amazing. Like, I never would have walked into any place that had these go-go boots anywhere else. They wouldn't exist anymore. So, I don't know. I like stopping into everywhere along the way. You never know what you're going to find.
That is very, very true.
So, anyways, yes, but you do have to wake up early, so we'll keep this one relatively short.
We will try let's try for around the same time as last night, like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And
let's do that.
Let's try to get through more than one chapter.
I told Mike, I was like, yeah, we did the intro and then the one chapter yesterday, and he's like, that's it? I was like, hey now. Hey now. We said it was going to be casual.
This is a dream.
Oh my gosh. My favorite movie as a child. And can I just say, cargo pants and crop tops every day, Lizzie McGuire.
But also, it's on Disney Plus. So, you can rewatch it. I definitely did several months ago.
When Disney Plus first came out, I kid you not, the first thing I watched on there, Kim Possible, start to finish. Done.
Kim Possible, call me, beep me, if you want to reach me. If you want to page me, that's okay. All these little kids that don't know what a pager is.
Yes! And literally, I was watching that with kids that I was nannying, and they're like, what does she mean? What's that blue thing she keeps holding? I'm like,
oh. Wait, okay, the first one I watched on Disney Plus was, it's the Sisters one where they do the racing.
I just rewatched that like 2 days ago.
What is it called? With Beverly Mitchell? Is that her name?
I don't know real names. I don't know real names, but
okay. Now I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, it was. I literally had just watched that one, and Mike's like, "Wow, all of your movies are like the same." And one of my favorite movies as a kid to watch on Disney was Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. Literally watched that one every time it came on TV. The Purple Goop.
Okay. Beverly Mitchell is the actress's name. Oh, Right on Track. That was, like, my favorite one as a child. And then also the basketball, the twins. The basketball one.
Literally, they came on back to back. I say they came on. I put them on. But they came in, like, they came into the, like, you just watched this. Why don't you watch this? And I was like, oh, I loved that movie. And Mike was like, this is horrible. Like, they're horrible actresses. Like, why is it so bad? And I was like, it's based on a real story. They needed real twins that were tall, that could play basketball mediocrely. Like, yeah. Yes, their acting skills are probably not the best.
Oh, yes. Disney Plus, what a fantastic thing that they decided to do for all of us old people.
It's the best time suck of COVID.
Yes.
Also, Sister, watched that from start to finish.
Love that one. I have not rewatched that, though.
Oh, man. I loved it so much. And I forgot how early they cut out Roger, like, as a character. I didn't realize how early it was. But that's because, like, when you're watching it on TV, it's like, oh, they throw in an occasional rerun, so It doesn't feel like he's out of it for that long.
Yeah.
Speaking of childhood, last week for you listeners, yesterday for us, we talked about a lot of random stuff, but mainly we gave our overall review and summary of The Danish Way of Parenting, giving it a 5 out of 5 stars, rating from both of us, and we talked about Chapter 1, recognizing our default settings, and basically how the book focuses on us as caregivers first, and then how we can implement it. Also, a quick apology to you listeners. If you can hear in the background the mowing of the lawn, the lawnmower, and the weed whacker, literally of all of today, my neighbors, like, Jenae texted me and was like, I'm ready when you are, and my neighbors started it up, and I was just like, well, I guess we'll give them some time, and they never stopped, and they have a huge property, so... yeah, and if you can't hear that, then I'm going to cut this out. But if you can hear it, I'm sorry. So anyways, it's going to be there. Because I was just like, I can't just, like, we're going for it. So yeah, okay, let's just start with Chapter 2. We'll see how far we get. P is for play. And I wanted to start with the definition that the authors give for play and in what they're meaning when they say that. So that quote really quick is, we mean play in which they are left to their own devices, with a friend or alone, to play exactly as they see fit for as long as they want. So that's their definition of play, because when they're talking about play, they're talking about free play. And a lot of people have different ideas of what free play looks like or how structured free play should actually be. But for this conversation, we're going to talk about free play with the definition in mind that they initiate themselves and they continue as long as they want, with whom they want, and how they want. Basically, as the kid, they are in complete control of their play. So, Jenae, I know you are a strong advocate for free play. Tell us more.
Definitely. I am all for free play. It comes, as a nanny, a little bit more difficult, I feel like. And as a parent in general, I've heard, I have a cousin who has 2 daughters, and she posted one time a picture of her daughters playing in the backyard and said, lazy parenting for the win, or something like that. And I just messaged her and I was like, no, not lazy parenting. You're doing the best thing for your girls to allow them to play by themselves, use their imagination, not have structure, not tell them what they should be doing. And I mean, I don't know if she actually like resonated with that or not, but I completely resonate with that. It can be difficult as a nanny to feel confident and comfortable with letting your nanny kids have so much free play, or as much free play as is recommended or is good for the child, just because we're being paid to watch the children and help raise them. And so it can be tricky to step back when they are playing comfortably and confidently and using their imagination, but it is truly one of the most important things that we can do for the child, for the family. I just love it. That's all I have.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, honestly. So this came up in our book club initially when we were discussing this book, and it was a topic of hot debate, because we all were advocates, strong advocates for free play, but the debate came in when we were talking about how confident should you be as the nanny to allow free play to happen, and like how do you approach that conversation with the family. One of the things that I remember specifically, I thought it was so brilliant that she said it, Amanda, she's the nanny of Oz, and she brought up the point that on the interview that she does with her family, she often asks them to give her examples of what they mean by free play. So when they say that they encourage their kids to have free play time, what would that look like? And I thought that was just brilliant, because a lot of parents don't realize how unstructured free play is. And so they say like, yeah, I want my kid to have free play because I know it's really good for them, and I want them to have a sense of confidence and curiosity. Basically, they want child-led learning, but they don't realize what that looks like. Because a lot of times that looks like, I'm going to sit here as the nanny and read my book while you are playing with your Legos. Or I'm going to sit here as the nanny and, I don't know, type up my invoice for the week or whatever while you are building a tower. Like, so it's very, very hands-off, and I don't think that parents recognize that free play doesn't mean that me as the nanny, that I'm going to interact with your child as one of their peers, because frankly, I'm not a peer. So when they're interacting with me, it's going to be different from if they were interacting with a peer or with a plushie or, a stuffed animal. I don't know what you guys want to call that, but I call it a plushie. Anyways, but how they're going to interact with things and other kids in their world of imagination and free play is going to be very different from how they interact with me. And so that's why, as the nanny, it's important that we are hands-off. But of course that struck like the debate of like, okay, not debate, the frustrated questioning of how as the nanny then do we talk to the parents about free play. And then that's when the interview question came up, which I thought was brilliant. Oh, one thing that I was saying in the group was that as the nanny, it is hard to be hands-off, but if you start feeling guilty about being hands-off, then you can always make mental notes or even literal notes as to different developmental milestones that the kids are working on and how their free play is basically making that happen. So, for example, if their free play includes building a tower or building with Legos, then you can talk about how they're recognizing color and patterns, because a lot of times kids will inevitably make patterns that they like or that they think look pretty. You could talk about how they're working on balance, how they have to recognize that the tower needs to be balanced, so they see that, it needs to have a big foundation and then get smaller toward the top. And so they're learning these things, and then they're also usually, if they have a sibling or a friend around, are working on negotiation skills and communication, working with kids to recognize, like, this is mine, that's yours. If that's yours, then I need to ask to borrow it. They're working on these different communication skills that are vital to them then growing up and being in an adult world where they'll need these communication skills in whatever job they have. So just taking mental notes like that and sharing them with the family will help. At least it helps me not feel guilty when I'm sitting there doing nothing, or so it feels. Do you have any thoughts?
Not on that specifically. I had a different thought come up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had the thought, and you can totally correct me if I'm wrong if you know more about Montessori than I do, but I feel like a lot of times free play and Montessori are kind of assumed to be
like the same thing.
But from what I understand, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Montessori is they set out open play activities, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So what? And I'm not any expert in the field.
Yeah, neither am I.
Don't trust. We say that, and we're both like, we are like good nannies and have been for a really long time. So we kind of are experts, but not in Montessori.
Yeah, not in Montessori is what we mean by that.
Because we are experts as nannies. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, okay, I'm derailing. Montessori is usually they will still base what they set out on the child's curiosity. So like if the kid has been interested in butterflies, then they'll set out butterfly themed things or activities that they can do of their own initiative. So it's still a little bit child-led, but it is also more adult-guided than just generic free play. And it's hard, too, to strike that balance because we say free play, but really we're buying the toys or we're buying the blocks. Or like we are choosing elements that obviously guide children when we let them then have free play. But Montessori is more structured in the sense that you typically set out certain groups of toys or certain groups of manipulatives or blocks or whatever, and then they don't really have access to things other than the things that you've set out.
Okay.
Whereas in free play, they'll have like access to their whole playroom or to all of the yard or to, more.
Okay. Yeah, so I did want to see if you had a distinction between those two things because, yes, in my mind, I view them differently because obviously, yes, Montessori goes towards what they are interested in, but like you said, an adult is still setting out something for them to play with, whereas I feel like child-led play is able to be more manipulated it during the day because like you said they have access to their whole playroom usually, so they can go and say, all right, I'm going to get my blocks and I'm going to build a castle, and then after they build a castle they can say, oh, I want some princesses and some knights and some pirates to be in this castle, so I'm going to get those too. And then you never know, maybe they make a moat and they need to go get some animals to put in the moats. Like, I feel that child-led play and free play is different between those two, and I lean more towards the free play, not Montessori, just because I want the child to be able to expand from a lot of different things. Not that I am a big advocate for having a ton of different toys in the playroom that they get too overwhelmed. But I do feel like they should have access to things and different toys that will allow them to expand their play in a different way than Montessori is able to, or say you only have blocks. Again, I am not at all an advocate for having a ton of toys, but I do think having a good solid base of
like
open-ended toys, a good solid base of open-ended toys allows for so much imagination and learning and growing. And I love magnetiles, I love blocks, I love a good couple little figurines, lots of books, because in my opinion, books also should be included in free play because a child is able to go choose which book they want, go and look through them. If they can't read yet, they can look at those pictures and use their imagination and make up in their own mind what the story is, what the words are. I think it was Emma who said and has posted on her stories about at Emma's Littles, by the way, has posted about her reading in the room while her nanny kids are reading as well.
Yeah.
And I love that. I used to do that during quiet time. We would have 30 minutes of you read a book and I'm going to read a book, and then you get to choose. And if you want me to play with you, I'll play with you, but if you want to play by yourself, you can. More of the one-on-one time type of thing. But I think it's so important, like we talked about in our last episode, to give an example to our nanny kids of what we want them to do and to be. And for me, reading, as you can tell, is super important. It opens up just a world of possibilities.
Yeah. And I like that Emma, she did post this really cute picture of her kids that were like hiding under a table reading their books together.
Oh,
like
yes.
They had decided that that's what they wanted to do. And so she just started reading a book of her own in the same room. And I loved that she mentioned in that post, I think it was in the caption somewhere, she had said, make sure that it is a physical book, which is why she always is so strong-willed about making sure that she has a physical book with her when she goes to work, is because when you start reading on your phone, well, that looks like you're playing on your phone, versus when you have a physical book, it's very obvious what you're doing. And yeah, same thing when we would have quiet time. You know, if the kids didn't want to have quiet time where they laid in their bed, or the kids that I had at the time we were doing this, they were doing audiobooks on their Google Homes, and so they could listen to their audiobooks and lay in bed, or they could read whatever books they had in their room, or whatever they wanted from the playroom they could get and take in their room, and I would be reading a book in their playroom. And I genuinely like reading as well, and so I would read and just eat my lunch at the same time. And then if they were, you know, bored, or they came out of their room early, then that was fine, but I didn't change my activity, and it usually led to them just sitting in the playroom by me reading a different book. So it kind of just encouraged them to extend that amount of time spending on that activity. I'm curious, though, what you think about, since we're talking about free play, and we could talk about this forever, so I'm going to try to move on soon, but I'm curious what you think about limiting toys, like limiting toy access. So we talked about having a lot of open-ended toys, but not a lot of toys, because then it overwhelms kids. And I know that I've worked in families that just don't understand that at all. Like, they think, oh, but I'm giving them more options, and it's like, okay, but then you reach this point where you're overwhelming them and they don't know what to do, and they get distracted by everything that's going on around them, and it just doesn't lead to productive play. So then I would always recommend doing a toy rotation. And part of that toy rotation, even during the day, of the toys that were in current rotation, like in their playroom, I would limit certain toys for certain times. And part of that was because we had a baby that needed a nap. And so we couldn't play with magnetiles or blocks, because then when those come crashing down, it will wake the baby. So it was like, during quiet time, you could play with Play-Doh, or you could read a book, or you could do make-believe with your animals, or, you know, there were certain things that were totally fine, and they still had a lot of options. But just like, what do you think about limiting toy access? Like, do you feel like that can still be incorporated in free play?
Oh, completely. Same thing for quiet time. My family that I worked for 4 years, they had 2 older kids, and then while I was their nanny, they had their third. And it was a house that was very, very open, and you could just hear everything. And so I have no problem with certain times of the day limiting the options, as long as they have, in my opinion, as long as they have options to choose from that are open-ended ones, then that is enough, especially because it's really usually just for certain times of the day. So same thing, when she would be napping and they were old enough that they weren't napping either, they did Play-Doh, we had coloring, we had a plethora of coloring books. They could read for a little bit, which was usually actually as I'm remembering, usually the first 30 minutes of every day of quiet time was reading, and then they were able to have their options of the quiet type of toys. So I see no problem in that. And I also, if the parents have bought enough toys that they have a lot, I think that toy rotation is super important. I have had a family that had an insane amount of toys. I, as a 26-year-old, would walk into their playroom and I would feel overwhelmed. I cannot imagine being a 3 or a 5-year-old walking in and trying to figure out what to play with. And I mean, I saw it. They didn't play with a lot of things. They had their 3 favorite toys that they played with, and maybe once a month would they go through some of the other bins and play with the other things. So yeah, I mean, that's a whole other topic that I'm pretty passionate about. But
yes, I will be adding that to the notes to discuss at a later date.
Again, to each their own. I personally will probably include that type of question in future interviews. If it's not an in-person interview because of whatever is going on in the world or we're far apart, I will ask for a tour of their playroom. I will ask what their kids' favorite toys are. I will ask whether they go through the toys every couple months and donate them, whether they feel comfortable with me doing that. I had 2 families that I had free reign over organization of the playroom, over me saying, hey, your kids haven't played with this for a month, so I'm going to set it aside, and if they still don't ask for it, can we please get rid of it? And I loved that because parents, yes, they play with their children and see them on the weekends, all those things, but most of the time nannies are the ones who are for the awake hours, Monday through Friday, or whatever your schedule is like. You really see most of the time what the kids are playing with and what they're interested in. And so you're able to see what they are and are not playing with. And so that is a really important thing that I've learned after multiple positions, is that I want to know, can I get rid of toys? Because yeah, I mean, it walking into this one family's playroom, I was overwhelmed. So
yeah,
I can't imagine a kid.
No, I think that's super smart to ask up front in the interview because, well, you already know that I am looking into hopefully getting this job that I really want.
Yeah.
That I just applied for, but it's in another state, and so I would have to definitely get some virtual tours because I was kind of curious about that because they are a very child-led family and growth mindset family, and they've put that, you know, all throughout their ad for a nanny. And so I'm curious to see, like, what does their toy room look like? Do they have a toy room? Like, is it, you know, I'm curious about that. So that is super smart. And then also I feel like I've never before put that in my interview, and it's because I know myself and I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm going to make a box and then one day just present it and go, I think we should get rid of this. Because that's just my style. But also, I remember one family gave me, well, they didn't even give me permission. They straight out asked me to make an Amazon wish list for the baby that I was nannying for, and as I thought of things, or as his interests changed, I could add things to this ongoing gift list, like this registry, and whenever there was a holiday or an event or whatever that people would want to get him a gift, they could get them from that registry. So he was only getting toys and books that I wanted to have for him, and it was amazing.
That is so smart.
Yes, and at the same time, I was able to rotate out toys that I knew, like, he's no longer playing with this or whatever. And so it kept his playroom really tidy and really engaging for him. And also, it saved the parents, because, I mean, there's been other families, too, that, like, when there are going to be big holidays or events or whatever that come up, they ask me like, hey, what would my kid be interested in? And I give them, a short list. But that ongoing list, it was so convenient because I just would update it whenever I felt like it. And I didn't have to, like, be put on the spot and think about a list of, like, 20 things at, a drop of a hat. Anyways, so that is another suggestion for working out the playroom situation because, yeah, those things can be seriously overwhelming. Like, I just don't think parents realize, like, they just want their kid to have so many options, but having too many options is as bad as having no options.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So I'm just looking at our notes, and, we almost passed this part.
Helicopter parents?
Yes! Yes, we did almost pass this part. So we have a note that literally just says, anti-helicopter parents. Don't intervene or protect them from themselves. And that is, like, all of my feelings. Because, yeah, helicopter parents are the worst. And it's hard, too, because they, like, mean well. They really do. And they love their kids so much. And it's hard to explain that, like, you have to let go of the things you love so they can grow. Like, that concept is so hard to explain without sounding like a jerk that just doesn't want the parent to intervene with the kid,
Yeah. On my notes I have, I don't know how many little mini heart attacks I've had. Yeah, it's even though we are both very anti-helicopter parent, caregiver, etc., I mean, I know. I'm assuming you know too. It really is difficult.
Yeah.
To do and to watch a kid struggle that you love most of the time. Hopefully you've come to love them as their nanny. But it is really difficult to watch them struggle. But I think that as you learn more, and hopefully we can find a couple good books to reference in the future and to do a review on, when you learn more and you see the research for it, it really clears it up. Like, it really clears up how important it is to step back and to give yourself those little mini heart attacks and let the kid be a kid and let them learn for themselves what they can and can't do, what they are and are not comfortable with, and natural consequences. Honestly, I think natural consequences are some of the best learning tools. And so kids will be able to see, oh, well, I probably shouldn't go upside down on this because then I can fall down. Or, I mean, that was the only example I could come up with off the top of my head. But the natural consequences that come are the greatest learning tools, instead of you going up to them and saying, you could have this happen. Well, yeah, it could be a possibility, or your kid could learn how to not have that happen and learn and grow in a way that you didn't know. Yeah, so it's really difficult, but don't do it.
Don't intervene. Yeah, it is so hard, especially when they're little. So the kid that I was recently with, he's 2.5 now, and I just went back and had him for a day, and he wanted to play on the rocks that were on the waterfront. And it was like it was basically like a little rock wall for the tide coming in and out. But he was seeing his older cousins playing on it, and I was like, no, that's not an option. Like, I'm not about to have you die. Like, if you fall off these rocks, you will die. But I was like, okay, how can I not say no and just see what happens, like, in a safe way? And so I explained to him. So I set his feet on the rocks. It was a pretty flat, big one. And I said, be careful. You look down, and if you fall, that is going to hurt. Okay? So walk really careful. Gentle, gentle. And I just said it like that. And he's 2.5. So the concepts of careful and gentle, like, we're working on them, when you pet the dog and stuff. So we kind of got the, soft touch. So his movements were a little more slow, and he was a little bit more cautious. But I didn't even say anything, and he was starting to get toward the edge, and he looked over and goes, "Oh, close enough." And he stepped back, and he's like, I didn't even have to say, not any further, which was about to come out of my mouth, if I'm being honest, before he realized, like, there's not enough space for me to take one more step. I'm going to fall off this thing. So I feel like a lot of times we don't give kids the benefit of the doubt that they do know that some harm would come to them if they fell. Because, like, kids, you'll see them, like, when they're sliding down the stairs, or when they're sliding their butt slowly off the couch before their feet will touch the floor. It's like they do have senses of what's not comfortable, and, like, letting their feet free dangle is obviously not comfortable. So I don't know. I feel like we don't give our kids the benefit of the doubt enough, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to be like, nope, not doing that, period. Like, we're not, no. Because, yeah, we do need to let them experience.
I like to say be mindful of your body whenever there is something that I, like, just want to jump in and stop them on, because that allows them and hopefully teaches them to pay attention to their own feelings and what they're doing a little bit more than be careful, which I used to say all the time. And mindfulness is something that I preach about and use a lot in the emotional sense of helping to raise children, but I think that mindfulness can also be used in so many other ways, and that is one that I include it in when they are exploring and doing new things, to be mindful of maybe the tiny bit of fear that they're feeling, or the excitement that they're feeling, or the nervousness, or the, wow, my body is moving really fast down this hill, I should probably stop or else I might take a tumble. Yeah, but I love that. I feel like I might have read it in a book, actually. But it was years ago that I changed.
Whoever credit is due, right?
Yeah, it could be to someone else. It could be a concept that I then took into account. Not totally sure, because I definitely changed my wording of things probably a good 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I like that, actually, because the day that I watched him, I did have to say a few times, please be careful, and every time I said it, it killed me a little, because I'm just like, what does that mean? Be careful. It really means don't do it. Like, that is basically what we're telling them when we say be careful, and so I hate saying it, but then I'm like, what else do I say to make them aware of what's going on?
Yeah.
But I like that. Be mindful of your body. I think I'm gonna steal that.
Do it. I love it.
Yeah, that's gold right there. Yeah, so also with that, not only do they get to learn about, their own limits, but then in free play, especially if they have siblings or if they have friends, they get to work on those negotiation skills and on how to deal with conflict and stress and how to resolve issues. So kind of the same thing with not being a helicopter parent when they are physically doing things that make us cringe a little, but also when they get upset or in an argument with another kid, like taking a step back and not just wanting to resolve it immediately or make them feel better immediately, letting those feelings resonate and seeing if they can work it out amongst themselves before intervening is important to give them that opportunity to develop those communication skills.
Amen.
Alrighty then. Yeah, so we're pro free play, in case you can't tell. Oh, okay. So then, yeah, chapter 3. A is for authenticity. Can I just be the first one to say, like a couple of months ago, it's maybe been a year now, I swear, lockdown time just, I don't even know.
It just passes you by and you don't know where it went.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know how long ago it was, actually. It could have been yesterday, it could have been 3 weeks ago. I was probably wearing the same thing, sitting in the same spot I'm sitting now, so who knows. But I, all of a sudden, one day, it just, like, was apparent to me that I started seeing authentic self and authenticity all over social media and like all over my different platforms that I use for Oh So Simply. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, you want to be your authentic self? Then just be you. I don't understand what you mean. Like, I did not understand what all this hype around authenticity was. It's just like, yeah, I get that there were, you know, as we used to call them back in the olden days, I guess, like two-faced people, or like, you know, double talkers is what we would call them in high school. It's like, I get that there were those people, but what is this like newfound discovery of be your authentic self? Like, is it just me? Do you know what that catchphrase means? Like,
I don't feel like I've seen the specific like authentic self part of it. When I think of like who I've heard from or read pertaining to authenticity, it goes back to Brene Brown for me, and like authenticity and vulnerability and like shame versus guilt. I don't know. That's what I think of, but I could be completely off. I haven't read Brene Brown's books in a couple years.
Who?
You don't know who Brene Brown is?
No, and I knew I was going to get that response, so I waited for you to finish your thought so I didn't throw you off. No.
Okay, Brene Brown is a researcher and teacher, professor, who has studied vulnerability and the shame versus guilt and the effects that it has on people and children. And I will say that I learned a lot for myself, but also for how to speak to children from Brene Brown. So, especially the shame versus guilt. Because of the way that I was raised, due to religion and mothering, I felt a lot of shame instead of guilt. And shame is I am bad versus guilt is I did something bad. And when I read Brene Brown's books on these things first, it resonated so much with me and how I was raised. And then it made me change how I spoke when kids made a mistake. And now I don't say things along the lines of, you're a bad kid, or what a bad girl. Even when you're even if you're speaking to a kid about someone else, I won't say that. I will say, oh man, they made a bad choice, or oh man, that's not the best choice, or oh, you made a great choice. Because I personally feel, and from reading Brene Brown's books, feel like it's more detrimental for the long term. And I saw in my own life how detrimental it can be when you think that you're a bad person because of the choices that you've made, and you almost have the mindset that you can't change that. Whereas if you say and specify that the choice was bad or good, then it's pertaining to that specific instance and not a long-term occurrence. Which is in the authenticity chapter talking about fixed versus growth mindset. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand, fixed versus growth mindset and shame versus guilt.
Yeah, I like that. I'm very curious. That is 100% going on our reading list at some point in the near future, because that is like my jam. I'm also a little curious for myself, personally as well.
Yes.
I feel like, anyways,
I will just say that there are so many parenting books and caregiving books, and then just like self-help books, that I feel like all of them can, when you take bits and pieces of them, just help you as a caregiver in general, because like we've talked about in especially the first chapter in the Danish way of parenting, how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves carries into our relationships and how we treat others. And so as we work on ourselves, then we are able to help others and children more.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'm very curious about those books. Yes, they'll be going on our reading list. Making mental notes here. And And yeah, so the fixed versus growth mindset, it was probably that point in the book that so obviously chapter 1 I loved because it was all about how did we grow up, how is that affecting our parenting or our nannying. And then this part where we got into growth versus fixed mindset was the moment that I fell in love with this book, because I had never heard of that before, and I could immediately see my childhood in that. And so literally for weeks after that, like listening back to some of my podcast interviews with other people that I release on Saturdays, like literally I could hear myself talking about this particular part of the book in almost every one for weeks after I'd read it.
I love
and it's
that.
just like again and again I'd be like, and I just fell in love with this book I'm reading in book club, and like every time. And it was because I feel like for me this really, really broke me, like as a child, the fixed mindset. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the fixed mindset is everything that I am, my personality, my talents, my abilities cannot be changed. It's nature. I can't work at them to get better. I can't do anything about them. It is just who I am. So I need to accept it. So if I'm really good at something, I need to keep being really good at it. And if I'm not good at something, I will never be good at it. That is a fixed mindset. Versus the growth mindset is everything about me can change. I can change my personality. I can change my abilities, my talents. Everything about me can be changed with hard work and effort and, lots of practice. I can be the best at anything. And I feel like I briefly touched on this when talking about autonomy with the Chronicles of Nanny, Martha. I recently touched on the fact that our school systems in America are set up so that you have standardized testing constantly, and you have to be good at it to pass or to be considered smart. But if you're not good at it, you get participation awards for different things. And so there's this like horrible pool of you have to be the best, but if you're not, it's okay. And you're just like, what do I do with that information? Like, how are we supposed to help children grow into the best versions of themselves if we immediately stunt them by telling them, like, this is who you are, by using phrases kind of like what you were saying, you are a bad kid, or you are a good kid, or you are a picky eater, or you aren't a picky eater. It's like when you say you are versus these choices, or, when you make the kid the problem or the success versus making the situation or the activity or the environment or whatever the problem or success, and you work with the kid against or for it. So instead of making it on them. Growth and fixed mindsets, that I could talk about for days, which is literally kind of going hand in hand with our next book, Mindset. I'll link that below in case you want to get it and start reading it. But yeah, it goes super deep into that. So I'm going to try to hold back a little. But
I will really quickly just say that, and obviously we'll go more in depth about it when we review Mindset, but it can be really difficult to encourage that. I don't know how far you are into Mindset or anything like that, but when I first read Mindset and then I tried to change to be encouraging of a growth mindset instead of a fixed, it can be really awkward. We are very used to like saying, good job, I love that, and giving our opinion, and then kids will come to rely on that, and that's not good because we want them to worry more about their own opinion versus other people's opinions. And so I started having to say things like, when someone would ask me, or when my nanny kids would ask me what I thought of something, I'd be like, well, what do you think of that? And it can be really hard because you just sometimes want to say like, oh my gosh, I love that, or wow, great job. Or saying things like, wow, you worked really hard on that. Like it can sometimes feel not as giving, to be honest.
Yeah. I lean towards, and I don't know when I switched. Like, I cannot pinpoint a day that I was like, oh yes, I had this aha moment and I've realized that I don't want to say that anymore. But I just, maybe it's because I didn't like it when I was told it, but I don't say usually good job, or I usually will say something like, wow, like literally just a short thing with an exclamation point. That's it. You're not getting any words one way or the other, because that is a neutral thing. Like, and then saying things like, you worked really hard on that, or wow, you're sweating. Like, and it was like, that is just my statement.
The enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to talk about one way or the other, whether I thought it was good or bad, whatever, like that. I'm just going to say that, and then you think about whatever you want that to mean, and that's what it'll mean for you. And I think that I've gotten the habit of doing that, partially because in reality, now that I'm saying all of this out loud, because I am an external processor, so a lot of these aha moments don't come until I've talked about it. But thank God for journaling, or I'd have a very extensive podcast of just like personal diary entries, I guess, for myself to listen to. But I think that a lot of that stems from like when you are kind of like, and we all do it, so don't make me feel guilty and don't judge me in the comments, but when you're half listening to children.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
that
when they're
totally
telling you
real.
stories, and you're just kind of, you throw out those like little exclamation marks, like, oh, interesting. Really? Cool. Like, and there are these very short phrases that can keep a kid going on these stories, or when they are doing free play and you don't really want to interject, but they're talking to you, then I just give them those short replies, because then it just keeps them in their free play atmosphere and mindset without really drawing me in. So I think that part of my reaction to, like, instead of saying things like good job, I just say wow, because sometimes, like, I don't know, I've gotten in the habit of saying those short expletives where is that the right phrase?
No, I don't think so.
Scratch that. I don't swear at my children. Anyways.
Exclamations, maybe?
Yeah, exclamation mark words. Anyways, I think I've just gotten in the habit of saying those kinds of short phrases. And so now I say them instead of, like, good job and things like that. Which, after reading this, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. At least I'm doing one thing right. So,
lots of things right.
Oh, man. I might cut the whole segment. That was a hot mess. Anyways.
Let's get back to just the regular authenticity.
Oh, yes. Yes, let's.
Sorry, I'm looking at both of ours.
Oh, I'm just, like, reading kind of. It's been such a long time since I wrote some of these notes that I'm also like, I don't know. Seriously? But the first thing I see is it's important to not shield our kids from sadness.
Yep.
I almost forgot that this was in here, but yes, I 100% agree that we should not shield children from the world, in the sense that, like, let them feel all of the feelings. I am a firm believer that a toddler, especially when they have all those heavy emotions, but even in later years or in earlier years, when a child is crying because they're upset about something or they're sad about something, not immediately trying to cheer them up or distract them. Like, it's okay to feel that feeling, and I will reflect that feeling for you until you feel that you felt it long enough. And I just think that part of that comes from, I personally have anxiety and depression, and when I am in a low, it makes me feel worse when someone tries to cheer me up, because then I feel bad that they are feeling bad and that they're not.
Amen.
And that they're not able to cheer me up. Then I feel guilty for that, and so it makes me feel worse. So I feel the same, like with children. It's like, I don't want you to feel bad for feeling bad. It's okay to feel bad, so we'll just feel bad together.
I'll even say, adding on, because I have anxiety as well. Welcome to 2021. I have anxiety, and when I try to express, and this is not everyone, but it has happened enough where it causes a lot of feelings. When I try to express my anxiety or nervousness or feeling fear or scared, and someone tries to brush it aside, or say, well, let's look at the positives of all of these things, or, well, at least there's this. It makes me feel weak, and I'm already feeling weak. It makes me feel 20 times worse, like I'm not good enough, or not good enough, but that I am feeling the wrong things because I'm feeling anxious or scared or any of those emotions. And so that just goes hand in hand with children. If they're feeling their feelings and then they come in and try to express them to us, and we say, well, that's not a big deal, or, well, let's get over it, or something like that, that is not good, especially starting so young. They're going to feel like they shouldn't feel their emotions, and that's just what happened to me growing up, and it sucks. And so if I can help even just 20 kids not feel that way, I will feel successful in life.
Yeah, I think that is my most hated phrase. Like, the it doesn't matter, or, but there's always this silver lining. I don't care. If I'm expressing my feelings and they're negative, I want you to affirm my feelings are my feelings, because, and I tell my kids this too, you can feel whatever you feel. How we act, yes, that has boundaries, but you are allowed to feel your feelings. Because when children are feeling sad or angry or frustrated, they need to know that it's okay to have those feelings. And, you know, we do teach them that it's not okay to act in certain ways when we're having those feelings, but having those feelings are okay. I think that is partially why so many of people, us, I feel like especially our generation, feels so anxious. Like, we have so much anxiety, and a lot of it comes from never being taught how to deal with stress and negative feelings, yes, and not being taught how to cope with them, but being expected to. And yeah, I think that I'll just read this quote because I'm getting emotional. This is more authentic. It creates empathy and a deeper respect for humanity, and that's referring to when we let children experience negative endings to stories or books or movies or whatever. So letting children feel those negative feelings helps them know that it's okay to have those feelings, and then we're going to learn to process those feelings, and we're going to learn appropriate ways to act when we have those feelings. And that also helps them have empathy for others and recognize more quickly when others are feeling things and acting in ways that maybe aren't positive. They'll recognize, oh, they didn't learn to deal with that feeling, but they're having that feeling. I've had that feeling. I can understand that feeling. One of the examples that they gave in the book that I thought was just really brilliant and pretty surface so that my emotions do not continue to run high, is there was a little girl who had done something that wasn't super great, and her friend said, you know, Daddy, this girl was mean. I didn't like what she did. And he said, well, you know, why do you think she did that? And the little girl said, I don't know. And he said, could it be that she was hungry? And she says, yes. And he goes, don't we kind of get grumpy when we're hungry? And she says, yes. Okay, so now she has been able to draw a conclusion for herself that the little girl wasn't mean, she was maybe hungry, and that's what caused her to do something that wasn't super nice, and it was because, you know, she was grumpy. But it was just, it helps kids have empathy when they're able to work through their own emotions.
All emotions are valid. That is one of the biggest things that I've learned in the past, I don't know, 6 to 7 years. And I was learning it for myself. And then again, like I've said multiple times, we learn things for ourselves and then we're able to apply them to our caregiving skills. One of my biggest questions for people or for parents or adults is, why do we expect children to be better than adults? Why do we expect children, little people who've been on the earth for 2, 3, 4 years, to be better than someone who has been on the earth for 20, 30, 40 years? Adults have tantrums. Adults have meltdowns and problems and anger and frustration that they take out on other people in not great ways. It just baffles my mind quite often how parents and caregivers and adults in general expect little people to have enough control over themselves and their brains and their emotions that they should not have meltdowns and not have sadness or anger and not completely understand how to express them. When we, as a parent or caregiver, will get angry and then yell at our kid or yell out a significant other, why should we expect that child to then not also yell when they are angry? We need to model, again, just like everything we've talked about and kind of roundabout way all leads back to this. We need to model what we expect from children, and having our own handle on emotions is one of them. And then when kids are learning how to do that, we need to teach them and help them and be there as a support and not a judge when they are expressing those emotions that are really big for a little body and a little brain and a little heart.
Yeah. I was also just noticing this point that says that helping kids develop authenticity, help them see the value of effort and not to compare themselves to others, because, quote, not everyone can be the best at everything, but you can be the best for yourself. I don't know if that is a quote directly from the book. It probably is, but I know that I have also said that before, which is that you can't be the best at, and I know that it's a quote from the book now because as I'm about to say it, I usually say, you're probably not the best at anything, but that doesn't mean that you're not good. And it's because it's true. I know that we always want to tell kids that they can be anything they want to be and that, they can do anything they want to do. And in part, yes, that's true. There are, as adults, we know situations and circumstances and environment and resource access. And there's like a bunch of factors into truly being able to do or be anything that you want to do or be that ultimately limit those options. But being frank with children, and there is always someone that's going to be better at you or better than you at anything that you do. There's someone that's better. There almost always is someone that's better. And when you recognize that and then realize that that doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't good, that is like key. Because then at that point, you can be the best that you can be, or you can be the best on this team, or you can be the best, in this class. But that doesn't mean that you are the best, because I think that often in our, school system and in our, American culture of competition, we have to teach kids that it's important to not compare yourself to others. And one way to do that is to be honest with them. And for the love of me, stop letting your kids win. I hate that. I hate it so much when parents or nannies or other adults in their lives let children win at games or activities or give participation awards.
Preach.
No. I'm just like, don't do it. Because you're teaching them that it doesn't matter how hard they work at something because they're just going to win because they're the kid. And that is so stupid. Because then when they compete with other kids, they might suck. And then what? You've taught them that they're supposed to win anyways? Like, you've taught them that there's no point in putting in hard work because you're either going to get a prize anyways, or, you know, it just drives me up the wall. So, just please stop letting them win.
We are soul sister nannies because I totally and honestly and will openly say that I win on purpose. I will have, like, they'll win maybe once or twice, and then I will cheat so that I will win. So that they can learn how to lose.
Okay, let the record show that I don't cheat, okay? I win, honestly, but I will say I will go on a winning streak and not feel any guilt about it.
Okay, and also let the record show that I don't have to cheat every time to win. It's just that sometimes it's necessary.
She's over here cheating at Candyland. Oh, shameful. But no, seriously, like, just helping kids realize that there is a negative side to things, and teaching them how to be good losers.
Yeah, how to handle those negative emotions or negative situations.
Yeah. We covered that pretty darn well.
Yeah.
Wow, look at us getting good at this podcasting
I know,
thing.
We're so good. We're so awesome.
If you guys, listeners, if you are enjoying being with us, two crazies, feel free to rate us highly and comment below and share this podcast because, yes, we would greatly appreciate you. Honestly, we are going to do it. I think we had decided on, how many books did we have? 6?
We have 6 books right now, but I have a list of like 20 to 30 in my head. And that's just right now. If I really wanted to sit down, I could come up with 50.
Okay. Well, not to get carried away or anything here. Seeing as we're posting these once a week, basically we are planning on doing, for sure, hands down 100%. And likely we're going to continue. But for sure, we're going to do the first. I think there's like 6 or 7 books. And, I mean, if this is just like a dud, like you guys don't like it, you don't share it, you don't comment, nothing, then we'll just have these conversations off air with each other. So let us know if you actually want us to continue releasing these, because then we will. And also by commenting and liking and everything, and subscribing, it will actually help us, because hopefully soon we will be having some sponsors. Yes, I have some exciting news. I reached out to a few people that I really want to partner with, so we'll see if those work out, but hopefully we will have some sponsors, and so it will also help pay for me to be taking all of this time to read all these books.
Don't worry, I'll do it for free.
I love that. Okay, so let's see. Oh, one more thing in this chapter. Good thing I read my notes. Number 4 in the, like, review. Actually, I think these are your notes. I'm reading your notes, but I'm glad I read them. Anyways, number 4 in the review of chapter 3 said, "Teach honesty. It can be difficult, but we need to not overreact to situations. Yes, consequences will need to happen, but the harsher our reactions are, the less likely a child will come to us in the future with the truth."
Amen. Amen.
Okay, yes, I love this point, because, okay, I can't remember what chapter it's in, so I might be jumping the gun here, but I'm gonna go for it. There was a example in the book that was given, where we need to show our children that we are forgiving people, And we do this by, when they come to us with a situation in which we want to encourage them to forgive the child, we need to make sure that we word things in a way to show our child that we are willing to forgive the other child that they have an issue with. Because not only will they then forgive the child, that's nice, but also they'll see that as, if I were that child, my mom, my dad, my nanny would forgive me. And so how we react to other children's faults, and in conversations with other adults, how we talk about other kids, our kids will pick up on those things and will be around for those conversations. And we want them to be fully confident in our ability to forgive them so that they can come to us openly and honestly with any issues they ever have. Because we're teammates. We are here for them, to support them, and so we need them to know that is the case.
Yes.